Hi, this is JilMac, and I'm the instructor for the Community College of Vermont and also for the Wyndham Regional Career Center and different training and one-on-one software support. So the students know that if you're part of one of my recordings, that it is if we're on a field trip, and that's how it applies to FERPA. So what I'm going to do is, this session is about how to FTP. And FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. So for the students in my classes, I'm going to go out to JilMac.com. And remember, Jill has one L. And from there, we're going to go to workshops and classes. The specific class that we're working with is web development, but FTP happens in all web classes. So whether you're taking my JavaScript class or my PHP class or some other class I might be teaching, we are going to have to FTP, or File Transfer Protocol, in one of them. But for the web development class, or for any of the classes, if we go out to Handouts page, so I'm going to go out to the Handouts page and scroll down. And I have a document called ftp.doc. Now there's also a Firefox, fireftp.doc, because FTP packages, like many other software packages, come from a lot of different companies. And some of them are dependent on whether you're a Windows machine or a Mac machine. Firefox, since it's non-denominational, or it doesn't matter whether you're a Mac or a PC, Windows machine, or a Linux machine, you have Firefox on all of them. But for this, I'm going to show you the FTP documentation. Now I'm just going to view it because if you don't have Word, views it sort of like a PDF. So you can look at it from your phone or your tablet. One of the things when we're doing stuff in viewing, sometimes, like, we see that this link right here is winscp.net. Now if I click on this winscp.net, notice how it doesn't put a T in there. Sometimes it drops the last letter, sometimes it puts in %20. It does a lot of different odd things, so you have to kind of keep track of it. If you just put in the T and press enter, you will bring up the correct website. If you downloaded it in Word and opened it in Word, it would be fine. Or downloaded it and opened it in Google Docs, it would be fine. But if you're just viewing it, sometimes there's issues. So I just want you to be aware. And I always want you to be aware of what it says the link is and what the shortcut actually pulls up. And if you cursor over a link, down in the lower left-hand corner, it should tell you what it's going to bring up. And notice how when I cursor over this in the bottom left-hand corner, you see it pulls up winscp.ne, and the T is missing. It's not that the T isn't there, and it's not that if you didn't download it, the T wouldn't be there. It's just, it's one of those little quirks that viewing a doc in Google doesn't quite work. It just, it makes it wonderful, and for a million other reasons. Okay, so let's kind of look over what's in this document. What's in this document is, this tells you how to set up your FTP software to go out to STWeb. So right here, it's telling us that the host name is stweb.ccv.edu, and that your username is going to be your CCV username, your 3 initials, the first 2 of your month, the first 2 of the day of your birthday, and a 0 following it, unless some people have an X or some other letter after that. And then you can put in your password. You want to remember that, leave it at port 22, or if it doesn't default to 22, move it there. And that the file transfer protocol is going to be a secure FTP. You can also see that if you check this box, remember last used directory, the next time you go into it, it's going to remember where you were and it's going to bring you right there. And that, over on the left navigation, is in directories. Each of the different software packages for FTP has it in a different spot but they almost all have it. And also, this shows you the last directory that you were in on your local directory or on your C drive of your hard drive. So that kind of tells you stuff. But I also want you to know that on Macs there's Fuji and FileZilla and Komodo and TextMate and CyberDuck, and there's probably a lot more. And it kind of gives you another picture of where it might be. So once you get the software downloaded, and when you download it from the site, if you're a Windows user, you can use this. You download it, and then you want to unzip it. Let's see. Where have I got it? Downloading. And then you want to unzip it. Let's go to the file folder. I'll go to my downloads. And then when you go to your downloads, let me just open this up. After you've downloaded it, you can click each one of these columns. I know a lot of people have it default to medium icons or something where you get this picture, but it doesn't really tell you anything. If you go up to this picture and you say you want the details, then it tells you the name of the folder or the name of the file, the date that it was modified, what is it? Is it a folder? Is it a doc file? Is it an MPG-4 file? And how big is it? You also have all of these columns up here so that you could sort it by name so that you could get your Ys first. And I'm sorting it by that or the date that it was modified. Notice that today I downloaded WinSCP, so a lot of times date modified, if you click on that, it's going to bring it to the top. This is a zip file, and it tells me that. I can cursor over and see that this is a compressed zipped folder and how big it is. If I double click, and it's supposed to look like a little folder with a zipper there. If I click it or double click it to get in, it shows you all the files. And if you're in Windows, you will have this little extract all the files and you tell it where you want it to go. On a Mac, there's probably something similar. So once we've extracted it, and let's bring it up. Now I happen to have a lot of different ones, but I'm going to look out at my STWeb one and I'm going to edit it just to look at it. It has stweb.ccv.edu. It has my port number, has my username, has my password. It's a secure file transfer protocol, but if you click it, you could see that there's a regular and just an SCP, but we want SFCP. Over in the left navigation, this is the session. If I looked at stored sessions, it would show me all the different sessions I have for different servers. If I click on the environment, it shows me this window. If I click on directories, here is where I have it checked, remember last directory used. It tells me this was the last one I looked at. This was where I was on my PC. And I want to save this. Now it's going to come up and save password. Well, that's not recommended. But if you're on your own home computer, you can save your password just like you save your password for lots of other things. Right now I'm just going to cancel out of this and go back into it again. So I have it on my shortcuts. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to my STWeb space. So once you have done it and you've been able to log in, when you log in, what you're going to see is you're going to see this CIS and all the different classes. So these happen to be all the classes that CCV is offering this summer. Over on the left-hand side, this happens to be all of the files that I have in my directory. Here's my textbook edition 8, where I have my chapter 1 and all my different folders, files in here. This BlueFlax JPEG. Of course, if you click it in an FTP, it's not going to show you that. It's just going to show you the graphic interpretation. It's not going to show you the BlueFlax like a PC would. PC automatically opens it in a graphic editor or graphic displayer. when we're in WinSCP, WinSCP is to transfer files up and down. It's not going to give us the ability to view them. So what does this mean? Well, let's bring over, I'm going to move this over a little bit so that we're side by side. And I'll close it up a little bit. Just move these columns over a little bit. I guess I gotta peek it over a bit more. Okay, now I'm gonna bring up a blank browser window, and I'm gonna go out to stweb.ccv.edu. So here I'm a user. Okay, I'm just out on the internet looking around. Here I'm a developer. I have FTP'd or file transferred into my server, and I have lots of different directories. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. So here I want to go to CIS 1151, and if you're in the online class, we're VO01. If you're in my Springfield class, we're VS for Springfield. But let's go into my online class and scroll down to me. Here I am, Jill. And Jill has two different files in there. One is index-simple. When I click on it, it brings up a web page that has a picture of our textbook and links to different assignments. And that's because I have these files in my directory. And that one of them is named index. Now if I go back and I look at, I'll just pick the first name in our list, in our class, and this person is forbidden. And the reason that they're forbidden, if I was to go into AECs, so let's come over here to the server side and scroll down to 1150 VS. Okay, so this is our class. And we will go over and we'll oh, that's SP. Yeah, that's my Springfield class, so I'll just go up again. And I will look at the VO01. And I'll go down to JAM. And JAM shows that I have two files. If I go up to this AEC, AEC has no files. In fact, none of the students in my class, for my online class, have files in there yet because I haven't taught you how to FTP yet. And that's the reason that you're forbidden. You have no files in there, and none of the files have the name index. And remember, our server is a Linux server, and Linux is case sensitive. So if you type in that your file name is capital INDEX, that is not the same as INDEX, because Linux is case sensitive, and if it says I need the file name to be index and not capital I index, then it needs to be lowercase, which it does. So I'll go back to my folder, JAM, and show you that the only things I have in this folder are web development and index simple. So let's go back to my folder on the server. So we go back to JAM, and we see that there's just two files. Well, I would like to be able to look at different files. And I would like to be able to look at Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 of these textbook edition. So I'm just going to drag this whole folder over. And that whole folder is going to start to slowly copy over as these get copying. It takes a minute, especially when you're recording. So over on this side, if I were to F5 to refresh my screen, I would see that I'm starting to get a new folder in here. And if I open that folder, I'm going to see that I have chapters 1 and 3 and 4 and 5, because chapter 2 doesn't have any examples. And if I hit F5 again, I'll refresh it. It's still working on chapter 5. And I can tell that because over on this side, it tells me that it's still copying JPEGs from Chapter 5. And the reason is that JPEGs or pictures are large. So we're just going to let that go. But that is how you FTP a file. So you decide which FTP software that you want. So we decide which FTP software we want, and then we download it or activate it if you already have it. And then we put in our requirements. And our requirements are, oops, let me go back here. Our requirements are, I'll scroll back, to put in the host name, to put in your username and your password, and to remember to save it, whichever your FTP software is. In this case, this is the WinSCP for Windows users. If you have any problems setting this up, give me a call and I can walk you through it. This is probably the hardest part. If you've never FTP'd, if you've never done a file transfer protocol, if all you've ever done is, be on like a Facebook page and click the button that says upload a picture, and you're doing it more from the user point of view, then it's going to be new to you. So it's fine. Remember, nice, deep, clean, cleansing breaths to get lots of oxygen to your brain, because it is a little bit different, but that's fine. If you're uploading really big pictures, even if you're a graphic designer or something, if you're uploading really big pictures, you're not going to have an interface like Facebook or something. You're probably going to have something where you can directly upload very, very large pictures, to your work or to a client or something like that. Because we all know that when you upload that really big picture that you took in that huge 10 megapixel camera that you have, and that picture does not go up in that great big huge format. It goes up, but they upload just a very small picture and not the large picture. Because, who's going to store your big humongous pictures like that unless you're paying them?